Hello and welcome to From Panels to Pictures. This is a special episode this week. I'm joined by Keith from Home Media Minefield, who I'm sure you all know very well. Keith Isles. Keith, welcome. It's lovely to see you.
No, lovely to see you too, and quite fun to be sort of dual hosting something. So
we are. So you might be watching this now on the Comic Crush YouTube channel, or you might be watching it on Home Media Minefield's channel. That's entirely up to you. You can watch it either or. Please think about subscribing to both channels and following those channels on Twitter at the Comic Crush on Twitter and Instagram. For me, you can also find Comic Crush on Facebook. As the title suggests, we deal mostly in comic books and comic book movies, but we're doing this today just because it might be of interest to you. Keith, if people want to find you, where would they go?
Yeah, it's Home Media Minefield. The channel is on YouTube. You might already be here. And it's Home Media Minefield on Instagram and all the socials, etc. So yeah, just check out that. I think it's Home Media Mine on Twitter currently.
It is indeed. It is indeed. It's a Twitter I follow myself. Yeah, you can check that out for loads of home media, Blu-ray, 4K, DVD unboxings. Plus, oh, look at that. Look at that. What a collection. Plus, you can take a look at all the in-depth reviews on the special features and technical specs that Keith does on the channel. It's a great channel. Well worth taking a look at. I subscribe myself. Keith, lovely to have you here again. As I said, we're going to look at No Time to Die, the latest Bond film. We've waited about a week to do this. By the time this goes out, it would have been nearly a week since the film got released. The reason for that is we knew that we wanted to do a deep dive and go full spoiler on this particular movie, but we wanted to give some people time to see it. We'll try and give you sort of a warning when we are going to go full spoiler, but to be honest, guys, this really is a sort of post-film breakdown of the movie, not a kind of review. So I've done a review already. You can find that. I'll put it in the description down below. You'll be able to find that there. That is a spoiler-free review. This is a full spoiler video. So... You've been warned. You have been warned. And there is a lot to spoil in this movie. I'd also like to say welcome to everyone who's listening on the podcast. Thank you for joining us via audio. I hope you're enjoying that. Obviously, again, as with the YouTube channel, please subscribe, please like, please share. It all helps the channel get seen. And also, please take a look at the Patreon if you can, because that helps me do more of these, helps me sort of find more time in the day to be able to put out more content. And just broaden the type of content that the Comic Crush does. Okay, so Keith, we're going to break the film down sequence by sequence, really, if we can. Our memories of it may kind of differ because obviously, it's as I said, it's been a while since we've seen it. It's been about 4 or 5 days for me, and I have a terrible memory. We are gonna just try and go through the film major sequence by major sequence. Let's start with the pre-credit sequence, which takes us back kind of 20, 30 years. How long does it take us back?
I'm guessing, somewhere between 15 and 20. I would guess it's because it's one thing to sort of age Madeline Swan through this, but also we have to remember that Saffron at this point is that amount of years younger as well. And I've actually heard that as a criticism from some people. They're like, what was he, 12 when he was doing this? But I noticed that whereas in parts of the film they put up specifically how long it is, in this particular case it's ambiguous. It's just an undefined number of years prior, and it's almost like a sort of it works like a sort of self-contained horror movie in many ways. This sequence.
Yes, there are moments of almost near kind of horror in it with Saffron's mask.
Also, sorry, one thing I do want to as we are right at the beginning as well, I do want to sort of point out that yet again, they redid the gun barrel sequence for Daniel. He's been the only actor actually out of all of the Bonds so far that has literally redone the barrel sequence for every film. Most of the others, I think Roger Moore maybe did it twice, and the reason for that was they went from spherical to anamorphic.
Right. There you go, the technical knowledge.
There you go. They had to reshoot it for that. Connery, obviously, originally it was stuntman Bob Simmons for the first three, and again, when they decided to shoot Thunderball in anamorphic, they did one with Sean. We had George that sort of dropped down onto one knee with his unique one. As I said, we mentioned Roger. He was the first one to introduce the tuxedo wearing for The Spy Who Loved Me. And then I think Tim, because he only did the 2 films, he only did it once. And I think Pierce only actually did it once, but totally nailed it. But yeah, Daniel's, it's changed several times. I don't know whether they redid it this time because of the IMAX sequences, maybe. But I noticed in this one he wears a tuxedo, whereas in the previous ones he was just suited. But
of course, there is no gun barrel at the beginning of Skyfall for very specific reasons. There isn't a kind of gun barrel at the beginning of Casino Royale.
Yes. It's part of the narrative in Casino Royale, which I
think is the only time that's been done, I believe.
Yeah.
Is there a gun barrel at the beginning of Quantum?
Now, what they do is they put it at the end of Quantum.
Yes.
The sort of the thing is I have a little bit. Okay, we're getting nitpicky, and I know we're on this film.
Go for it.
But I've got a bit of a thing about the gun barrel. I'm very specific about it. And I understood why they put it at the end of Quantum, because that was kind of the final chapter to Casino Royale, if you like. And he was now Bond. But then when they stuck it at the end of bloody Skyfall, I was actually annoyed by that, because I was like, no, it should have been at the beginning. And then, of course, it was at the beginning of Spectre, and we've got it at the beginning of this one, although no blood on this one.
No, that's weird. Yeah, kind of gentler Bond. I don't know. I mean, I don't think Daniel Craig's Bond can ever be accused of being the kind of gentler Bond, really. But yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I've got us off track.
No, that's great. That's great. We have the beginning, we have the opening. We jump back sort of 15 or 20 years into Madeline's past, which is very specific to the story. You know, she's Safin comes, the person we later learn is Safin, comes to murder her and her mother, but has a moment of weakness. And there's that great sequence where they're out on the ice and she falls, she's under the ice, and he, instead of shooting through the ice to kill her, although like there's no way he could have known that one of those bullets wouldn't go astray and go through the ice and sort of lance her right between the eyes. So, I mean, I found that a bit kind of just like, well, you want to be careful there, mate. But he saves her life. He brings her up through the ice.
He does. And I think it's important also to mention here, Paul, that this, of course, is because of connecting it to all the other films. It's because obviously Madeline Swan was the daughter of Mr. White, a character that was in all of them except for Skyfall. He was introduced in Casino Royale. He appeared again because that carried straight on in Quantum of Solace, and again we get him back in Spectre, where we see him for the last time. And one of the things he asks James is to take care of his daughter. I'm not sure necessarily in the way that James did, but yeah. So and obviously that's how we get the introduction of Madeline Swan in that film. Yeah. And many have said that that there wasn't a lot of development for her in Spectre, and I think that that's one of the strengths of this film for sure. Is it is much Madeline Swan's journey in this film as it is James Bond's journey, and I think Léa Seydoux does a great job as well in this one.
And I think really, with the benefit of hindsight, because they couldn't have known that she'd be coming back because he has said that he expected Spectre to be his last Bond film. I would have been really disappointed with that. It's not one of my favorites, to be honest with you. I think it's really badly paced as a movie, and just doesn't. A lot of it just doesn't sit very well. They weren't kind of, doing it knowing that she was coming back. However, with the benefit of hindsight, I wish they'd kind of planned it as a quintet of movies and built her character in a bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would have loved her to just sort of be threaded through 2 or 3 of the movies, or 3 or 4 of the movies, and even she just pops up for like one sequence at a time and slowly develop their relationship. In the kind of way that I guess they developed Moneypenny and Bond.
I mean, the thing with this one is, obviously, one of the things Casino Royale did very well was the development of the relationship between James Bond and Vesper Lynd in that film, and obviously that of course that's absolutely key to Bond's character
and key to this film.
And key to this film, yeah. But what I think that they kind of rescued from was one of the weaker elements of Spectre, because I like Spectre, and I think Spectre does a lot of things right, but it's also flawed. There are some certain flaws in it, and I think that this one at the opening here does set up very well the relationship between James and Madeleine after we see them heading off into the sunset at the end of Spectre in the DB5,
Yeah.
So,
and we kind of pick up just after that. They're in Italy, and the reason they're there is Madeleine is attempting, and it's interesting because she's being a psychotherapist. In those scenes, she's not just there for the sort of honeymoon period. She's trying to get Bond to visit Vesper's grave and kind of not necessarily make amends, but come to peace with the fact that Vesper's gone and all this kind of stuff.
and I think, and on that note as well, I think that works really well on 2 levels, because obviously because of her, blossoming and ongoing relationship with James, she is. It's that old thing, isn't it? You want whoever you're currently with to put their exes away, as it were, and move forward and move on with you. But also it totally feeds into her character, because of course it's what she does for a living as well. So I actually think that works quite nicely, in unison, if you like, whether overly intentional or not. It just seems to make sense.
Absolutely. Now, but during that sequence, of course, Bond visits the grave, finds the Spectre ring, and then is blown away almost straight away by a large explosion, which temporarily deafens him. He's then rushing back to the village and hotel to get Madeleine, but he's also assumed that Madeleine has somehow betrayed him.
It straight away puts an element of doubt in his mind, because she had encouraged him to go to Matera to visit this, which is a beautiful location, by the way, but to visit this if you like, resting place. And of course, Spectre have left their card. It's booby trapped, and of course, Bond being Bond, he's thinking, oh no, not again. A woman I've actually fallen in love with has betrayed me again.
Now,
but here's the thing. One of the things I like about that, before we get, is great sound design. Sorry, I know I'm always pointing out the technical.
No, it's fantastic.
But I really do like the fact that they put us in Bond's head with that explosion. I saw it in the IMAX, which has a great sound system, and you're there, and he's trying to ring her, and we can't hear anything, and I thought that was very nicely done, that piece. But anyway, sorry.
No need to apologize. That's great. You are absolutely right. It is fantastic sound design. We get a couple of interesting things in this sequence. First of all, we get the Cyclops villain the sort of crazy-eyed, bionic-eyed villain, which is harking us right back to kind of, I would say, 60s and 70s Bond. It
was almost Condor Man.
It's a wild element, and it kind of starts to root us in the more kind of science fictional Bonds.
Yes,
I find. But I mean, I think that was a bum note for me. I was like, I could have done without this. I'm sorry. I really could have done without it. But he's warned by the Cyclops villain, you know, that Madeline is a daughter of Spectre, which I really love that kind of phrase. You know, that was really interesting. And that then precedes this sort of big action sequence. Now, I've got to say kudos to the stunt team for the bridge jump and the car stuff, which was phenomenal.
It was amazing,
especially the bridge jump. I mean, that was absolutely. I mean, we've seen that in the trailers. Also, what I loved about this, my favorite stunt out of that entire sequence, which is this staircase motorcycle jump.
Yes,
it's not even a staircase, really. I don't even know what it is. It's kind of like an abutment that he rides up.
Bridge, yeah.
That was a huge stunt from the looks of it, and a real kind of crowd pleaser. But it's kind of done almost as a throwaway. It's just meant to get him from A to B on this.
Yes.
And I kind of admire that sort of filmmaking. It's a bit like, you know, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, where the biggest stunt of the film is done right at the beginning.
Yes.
You know, they don't save it for the end. This huge thing is done right at the beginning of the movie.
Yes. That bit is fantastic. You know, really good practical for the most part. You know, stunt work there. Really nice sequence. You know, really shows Bond thinking on his feet. You know, in the moment. The whole thing, I know exactly what you mean about the Cyclops villain thing. The only thing I will say, you know, we now live in a world where you have glasses that have, you know, internet connected cameras and stuff built into them. So whereas, you know, 20, 30 years ago, that was sort of pure science fiction and a kind of a ridiculous leap, even though it's still got a bit of a trope feel to it. From a technological point of view, it's not such a massive leap in the world that we live in today. But yeah, I know what you mean. It was slightly laughable. And I think films like Austin Powers and whatever over the years haven't really helped because, you know, brilliant as they are and amusing as they are, but they do make us take some of these sort of, if you like, tropes. You know, we almost look at them as a parody nowadays, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And we get this kind of lovely chase through Matera and into the square. We get the donut, the machine gun headlights. You know, there's lots of great stuff. I mean, I don't want to linger too much on the individual details, but it's a great sequence. Yes. And this is all pre-credits. You know, we haven't had the credit sequence yet.
Long pre-credits. Long pre-credits.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it the longest? Because I know The World Is Not Enough sort of held the record for being the longest pre-credit sequence.
I think this has actually topped that now. I think this is now the longest opening pre-credit sequence. I might be wrong, but I believe it's the longest. And you know, as well as being the longest gap between films as well, it was held by originally between License to Kill and Goldeneye, but now, you know, the length of time, because of reasons out of the production's control, obviously, but it's been a similar thing. So I know you don't want to linger in too many details.
No, go for it.
One thing I will say, I mean, obviously, always incredibly happy to see the DB5 Aston Martin, but for me, because one of my nitpicks with Skyfall, and I won't go into a whole reason why and all this stuff, but having the gadget laden Aston and that kind of bothered me slightly, because it was like why and all this sort of thing, you know. But in this case, because in Spectre, we actually have Q saying that they were going to rebuild the Aston from the ground up. It kind of makes sense that if Q was doing that, he might add these things to the car. And I like the fact that it's an upgrade. You know, whereas we had the machine guns on the old Aston Martin, the fact that he's actually got mini guns now under the headlights was amazing. So yes, I loved all of that stuff. Obviously,
although no use of the ejector seat, that was disappointing. But
well, also, yeah, he was angry enough that he might have ejected her, right?
There's a couple of things we do need to talk about in this sequence before we move on to the credits, and that is, first of all, that wonderful moment where he's actually thinking it over, whether or not he's going to kind of listen to what she's saying as the car is being shot to pieces and the kind of glass is getting weaker and weaker, which I loved. And also the use of "We Have All the Time in the World."
Yes.
Which harks us right back to another Bond film, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Now, we all know how On Her Majesty's Secret Service ends, with the tragic death of Bond's only wife, Tracy. So it's fair to think going into this that they're going to kill Madeleine Swan at some point.
Yes.
For the moment, what happens, I mean, the film for me is a kind of spiritual sequel to, apart from being a very direct sequel to Spectre and therefore also to Casino Royale and Quantum. Well, I think Skyfall was the anomaly there. I think Skyfall was the middle film that actually you can jettison from this storyline and it will make zero difference when you think about it. You can't jettison the other three.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things about connecting all these films, which I'm usually quite a fan of, but one of the things that did bother me slightly in the Daniel Craig films was I did wish that they'd kind of just let Spectre be let Skyfall be the standalone film that it was supposed to be. But of course, one of the annoying things in Spectre is they had to then link Silver into it, and it had to be all part of the plan. And it was a little bit like, really, did you really need to sort of join it up that much? Because under scrutiny, it makes like zero sense. So,
if your plan is to get James Bond and you've tried 3 times already to get him and you haven't managed it, probably leave him alone. It's not working. This, I think we'll leave this one.
No, I mean, there have been.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say there have been, nice as it is that Daniel Craig's Bond has managed to have a full character arc, if you like, across these films. That's great, but it hasn't been perfect. There have definitely been sort of mild retcons and some, if you like, continuity issues here and there that haven't made it quite perfect. But
and also, I find, with Spectre, looking at the villains in Spectre, every single one of them is a waste of space. Like, just an utter waste of time, especially Christoph Waltz. And I'm very sorry, he's going to be a bit of a waste of time in this as well, but we'll get to that. But I found him...
It's a shame because he's a fantastic actor, and B, Ernst Stavro Blofeld is a fantastic character, of Ian Fleming's creations and whatever. But yes, I would say that I think in the Daniel Craig Bond films, that character has been slightly wasted and ill-served. And it was almost like his involvement, his Hannibal Lecter style involvement in this one was only really, I think, to sort of literally close the lid on that and conclude from what had been set up in Spectre. But you're right, I agree. the Blofeld thing, he should have been the big bad in this, really, I think, but it would have been a different movie then,
or not there at all.
Yes, or there or his fate left ambiguous or something, but we'll come to that, won't we?
Indeed. Now, moving on to the song quickly, it's an excellent song this time around. I found now that the Daniel Craig Bond songs have met with a very, very mixed response, as the films have. I was never a fan really of "You Know My Name" when it first came out. However, at the beginning, but it's grown on me. Another Day to what's it called?
Another Day to Die. Yeah.
Another Way to Die. Isn't
Another
it?
Way to Die. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
Jack White and Alicia Keys. Yes.
That has grown on me.
Yes.
Quite a lot. I hated it initially. Let me be honest. I like all the songs from the films. However, I mean, the post Another Way to Die, they're all consumed with sadness and tragedy. The songs, and in fact, a lot of the joy of Bond songs has gone. But I mean, you look at Sam Smith's entry into the Bond song. He was so consumed with sadness on that he forgot to write a chorus for it. And it's a song that builds to nothing, and it is just really annoying as a song for that. I still think it's a good song.
Yeah.
But as a Bond song, it's like I really want a big chorus here, and it just wasn't one, and that song frustrated me the most.
Right.
Skyfall was a terrific song. However, they are all quite miserablest songs.
Well, yeah, I mean,
for me,
but they're also. I mean, you say about the joy, and one of the criticisms I hear of the Daniel Craig era, if you like, you either, I find people either kind of love it or hate it. But and I'm obviously a fan, but I also respect and understand the criticism that it gets as well. And one of the things is the big difference, if you like, with the Craig era, apart from the continuity and gritty realism until we get to Bionic Eyes, of course, and all of that sort of stuff. But one of the criticisms is it has lost the joy a little bit. And when you look at those songs, that they are all reflections of Bond's character, where he is in the journey at that time. So, and almost, and I know we haven't got there yet, but almost ending on Louis Armstrong's "We Have All the Time in the World" is kind of poignant. When you sort of think about like you said, the lack of joy in some of the other ballads that we've had in these Bond films. So,
I really like this song. I think it's great. What I think is great about the song is, if you look at it in the story context, it could be Bond singing to Madeline or Madeline singing to Bond.
Yeah.
And either way would work. I think it's a terrific song. I think, like, I don't really know much about Billie Eilish's music because I'm a 46-year-old man, and unfortunately, it just hasn't
written for us. Yeah.
No, and it just hasn't come across my transom. I will be looking more into her music because her voice is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a really lovely kind of almost sort of sensoramic voice. It's this really deep, resonant kind of voice.
It's got a haunting quality.
It's a fantastic song. Do you know if Zimmer wrote this? Because of course we have the great Hans Zimmer doing the score for this film. Do you know if he co-wrote this song? Or...
I don't believe so. No, I think it was written by Billie Eilish and one of her other collaborators that she usually works with, one of her producers. But I have to admit, I had avoided the song until this because I kind of wanted to hear the song in the context of the film. And to me, it was a little bit, I'm not going to lie, to me, it was a little bit Skyfall meets The Writing on the Wall, because it kind of felt like a bit of a melange of the two in some respects. I didn't find it as catchy as some of the other songs, particularly, with the chorus and whatever. It takes a while to sort of get to that, but I thought it was perfectly fitting to this film. and done again with a wonderful Daniel Kleinman opening credit sequence.
Absolutely.
Which, you know, I did like the sort of the fact. I always like it when they bring the themes into it, like, you know, obviously with Casino Royale, because that's a great example. You had the sort of gambling and killing sort of merged into the graphic, and with this one, you know, you had the strands of DNA,
and
were formed, etc. You know, with the guns and all the other sort of iconography, if you like.
And also, it recalls the other movies. There are, like, in the credit sequence, there are things in it that recall the other films, as does the entire film itself. So moving on to the second sequence, which we'll just touch on briefly, because we're half an hour in.
I know. You know,
we kind of want to do this in an hour.
We've got to the credits.
We'll get through this. So the second action sequence, really, second major sequence in the film, is this sort of raid on a pharmaceutical firm.
Laboratory.
Yes, sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Where they're working on some sort of experimental virus and viruses, and that virus is stolen, and that's quite a brutal sequence. Now,
it is.
We can talk now about, I think, what the virus does, because it's very specific,
and also it's important to point out here that it is established on screen that this is 5 years later.
Yes, so we
after Bond had put Madeline on that train,
which we didn't even talk about. Sorry, he does put her on a train and send her off, and basically say, "I'm never going to see you again."
Yeah. We all have our secrets. I just haven't got to yours yet, kind of thing.
Which is a wonderful line. I really liked it. I loved it in all the trailers. So, you know, these sort of masked guys come in and steal this virus. It's a brutal sequence. We've got to talk about what the virus does, because that's key to the film. It targets specific genetic codes, and is something that is being worked on in secret by the British government. And the idea is that it would basically end the need for collateral damage. However, of course, as we see, it can be perverted quite easily. I think it's a brilliant modern threat, and I think it was genuinely, for one of the first times ever, genuinely a terrifying threat in a Bond film.
Yes.
Where
it had that what the older Bond films hearken to, that sort of global threat, you know, that the evil mastermind, you know, that James Bond had to stop. And in this, you're right, they've tried to make the Daniel Craig films obviously much more realistic and grounded, if you like. And this kind of straddles that quite nicely, in the fact that we've got a chemical weapon which is a real threat, that's obviously designed to do one thing specifically, but as you said, has been perverted and modified in order to wipe out, you know, genetic family lines, or even you could even target a whole race of people, which is a really frightening concept.
I mean, it's proper kind of almost old school Nazism in virus form. It's horrible, but I genuinely found it quite frightening as a concept, and it's just like, Jesus, you know, and of course, there's the fact that we're told that once the virus is in you, that's it, it's in you, and it will get. If you get close to, it's very key to the end of the film, if you get close to whoever it's targeting, then that person is going to die. They're like, it will get them.
Well, wipe out entire families, you know, and obviously, you know, it's kind of, sorry to link
go
to link it to Comic Crush. He almost, you know, the master plan will be for Safran to do his equivalent of the snap, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We got to talk a bit about Safran, although he doesn't come into the film really again until much later. First of all, I mean, in terms of ludicrously named characters, there is a guy who's literally called Lucifer Satan.
Yeah.
In this movie, played by Rami Malek. He's he's got a lot of stick for his performance. I actually quite like his performance. I think, given his background, we're told that he kind of grew up in a family of poisoners who had their own sort of poisoners island of kind of ultra toxic plants. And given how insane an environment that must have been to grow up in, I think he plays it very well.
Yes, I think his performance is fine. I do think that the character is underused in this film.
Absolutely.
Terms of you've got a fantastic, Academy Award-winning actor there, and but he hasn't got a lot in this film. He hasn't got a lot to play with, actually. And even though he is, of course, the main threat in this movie, with obviously a connection to Madeline, which is key and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, they unfortunately has to share this time with the likes of Stavro Blofeld and many other plot threats. Sorry.
I think you're absolutely right there. I think it's a bit of a waste of a villain in a lot of ways. I like the way he kind of whispers throughout the film, that he just kind of pops up every now and then. It's a very haunting character. I think that effectively what you are watching in this film, and it's going to sound stupid because we'll get into this as we go, but I think you're kind of watching a very a ghost film in a way, because characters are haunted by actions from the past. They're haunted by people from the past. People are not where they're supposed to be in the film, which we'll get to in a minute. But I think what the last Daniel Craig Bond film becomes effectively is a ghost story.
Yes.
And it is quite spectrally done. There is a sort of weirdness to it.
Yeah. A ghost story where obviously the threat is about family. The threat in this is all about. I know I'm sounding like I'm quoting a Fast and Furious movie when I say that. But it really is quite literally about family. This film and relationships.
And does it a lot better than any of the Fast and Furious movies, as far as I'm concerned. Then moving on, we end up in Jamaica, where Bond is effectively retired. He's
which again is a really fitting location.
Yeah, because it is of course the location of the GoldenEye home that Ian Fleming had. I think Bond's been to Jamaica before.
He has.
Is he not in Jamaica at the beginning of Sky? Well, after the pre-credit sequence, or the credit sequence on Skyfall.
No,
I can't remember. I thought he was.
No, I mean obviously we've got Dr. No, which is the classic. But yes, he's gone back other times since. But in terms of the Daniel Craig's,
anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But and again, speaking of as you were there, Dr. No, this film is a film that is haunted by not just the Daniel Craig Bonds, but of course on Her Majesty's Secret Service and a lot of the other Bonds as well. You've got the DB5 at the beginning. So there is a lot to kind of unpack there. He meets Felix Leiter. Felix Leiter charges him with a mission. He asks him to help him out and pick up the scientist who has run off with this dangerous toxin. But the British government are also searching for this toxin. And they have sent one of their 000 agents. And we get to meet, for the first time, the new 007, Nomi, played by Lashana Lynch. There was so much made of Lashana Lynch's role in this film. I'm going to say this now at the beginning. Another character who is criminally underused in the film. I don't think she makes enough of an impact, unfortunately. There was some talk of her, okay, this is the new 007 now, and this is what it's going to be going forward. I don't know that will happen.
No.
I think it's absolutely fine if that does happen. I think it's like, obviously, Lashana Lynch cannot play James Bond, but Lashana Lynch can play 007.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I mean, I've had this conversation on other podcasts that I've been kindly invited on, and yeah, I'm of the opinion this to me didn't bother me at all. In fact, I actually think that it made total logical sense. You know, they're trying to make these films be more grounded and realistic and make sense and whatever, as well as being a reflection of the times, which all Bond films have been throughout the history of the Bond franchise. But I actually think that this works because if James Bond is retired, then why would they not assign another 007? It makes sense. And I found that this character, I warmed to this character a lot more than I was actually expecting to.
Okay.
But I blame that on the media, actually, because a lot of the crap that was written around it before the film even came out straight away kind of set it up to be something that it actually wasn't. And it worked, and it worked, and they worked together. And I also pointed out to some people that had different opinions on this. I said, look, it's not the first time a Bond film has done this, right? If you look at The Spy Who Loved Me or Tomorrow Never Dies, just two examples. It's done it more than this, but just two story examples there. It's not the first time that Bond has partnered with an equally capable female agent to actually defeat the bad guys and do the mission. Yeah, and that's exactly what they do here. And I think the banter between them is great because neither one gets the upper hand. They're toe to toe throughout the movie, and it's done. It's amusing. I actually think the banter works. So yeah, I actually think this character is good.
And Lashana Lynch is a terrific actress. I like her kind of almost. It's not sneering. It's a kind of disregard for Bond, really, which is great.
To start with, yes. Yeah. To start with, but one of the things
it's great to.
I think they earn each other's respect in this film, which I kind of like. But yeah,
but it's great to have a character, a female character, who doesn't instantly disrobe within 5 minutes of meeting him.
And they even make a joke about that, don't they? When she removes her hair, and he's like, "Oh, that's not the first thing I thought you'd take off."
and also, it's fantastic to see that she, does treat him with such disregard. She doesn't respect the work he's done before, the things he's done before, and I think it's great. I do want to take a moment to talk about Craig's performance in this because, rather than being the lean, mean killing machine that he's been in the other films, he plays this with a kind of gravity. Like you can see that the years are kind of wearing on him, and I love that. Like, you can hear it in his voice, you can see it in his face, and the physicality, and I really liked that, and I think. There's a specific reason for it, which we'll get to towards the end. But I really liked his performance. Sorry.
No,
yes, absolutely. He's still Bond.
Yeah. He's still Bond. He's still very capable. He still has the things that make him Bond. I think Daniel Craig has had the very enviable position of getting to take this character on this journey over the 5 films. I think he's been, very fortunate to be part of that legacy and, has delivered on it. He has worked very hard, both physically, getting himself in shape to do a lot of the stuff in these films, but also, I think he's played the character, the nuances of the character very well, and you see that. You never see that better than in this film, I think.
And I think the kind of interconnectedness has partly been his insistence.
Yes. He's been a producer on these. Again, another fortunate thing, but him and Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson hit it off well enough for him to actually, part of his thing for taking the role was he wanted to do something different with it and wanted to get involved in that. So he has been, certainly after the success of Casino Royale, he was made a producer and therefore was involved in the decision making from the actual script side right the way through to choices of crew and creatives on it. So absolutely.
Okay, so we've got about, I think we're going to try and do the next chunk in about 20-25 minutes, just to try and get through it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's not your fault.
I could talk about this literally all afternoon, but I know you're trying to keep it to a time, and I appreciate it.
I was aiming for an hour, guys, but I don't. It'd be great if we can get 1 hour and 7 minutes. Like that would... that would fill my little heart with joy. 1 hour and 7 seconds. But right, let's do this. We move to Jamaica. We meet up with Felix Leiter, who's a welcome return. Jeffrey Wright is a phenomenal actor. He brings with him another character who's kind of ostensibly this American State Department official, shall we say, who I actually found quite irritating. But I think you're supposed to, you're supposed to kind of discount that character as a throwaway character, and of course he isn't. Of course, we get this really unfortunate sequence where Felix is killed, which
you know what, that we've jumped over something really key. Really?
Oh no, we haven't. Yeah, have we? Go on.
And I really want to talk about her.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, of course, yeah. We'll get to that. We haven't yet. Don't worry.
We have jumped over that, right?
Have we?
No, I suppose not. No, we haven't. Not exactly. Not exactly.
We'll never do it in an hour and 7 seconds now. So, I mean, Felix is killed off, which does kind of prefigure something quite big that happens later on in the film. There is this kind of, I mean, it's quite a big sequence, but I think it's given room to kind of have the emotional resonance. I really like Felix Leiter as a character. I'm glad they've managed to keep the same actor playing him, because he's been played by dozens of different actors over the years. And
Jeffrey Wright's great as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm so looking forward to him as Commissioner Gordon in the new Batman movie. I think he's going to be phenomenal. And he has this kind of beautifully shambling yet razor sharp intellect that I think carries through to his physicality and all that. And I really like him as an actor. But basically, Bond has to then go to Cuba, where he meets.
Actually, before he dies.
Is it?
Before Felix dies. Yes, he does the mission in Cuba, and it's when he's
right. Yeah, you're absolutely.
That's why I was saying, we jumped over it because yes, they meet before that, but then Felix's death is not until after that. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, guys.
That's all right.
Sorry for everyone listening and watching. My memory is disgustingly bad, as you can tell. I'm full of a cold at the moment. I just can't function, which is what the nose blowing's about. I'm sorry. I'm really gross at the moment. So Cuba, Paloma, Ana de Armas, who is absolutely stunning in this film, and just an incredible amount of kind of sex appeal, if you like, but holds her own with Bond. Isn't just window dressing. She performs a very vital function and saves Bond's Bond's life in the movie. What's interesting about this sequence is we get a sense that Blofeld is watching the whole thing. Yeah. Of course, they're there to get the virus, and the Russian scientist who's created this virus. They end up with neither after a while. Oh yeah, of course, because that's where Felix bites the dust. The Russian scientist is revealed to be working with the guy from the State Department, who is one of Spectre's agents. It's there that we really learn what the virus does and what it's able to do. Mm-hmm. We also learn that, of course, that M was overseeing the creation of this virus, which is a fascinating turn of events. There's always been doubts about M. There were doubts about M in Skyfall. Yeah. But then, of course, those get dispelled, but now they're back again. Is there anything else you want to say about the Cuba sequence?
Well, I mean, obviously, we obviously see the devastation that this weapon is capable of. Obviously, Blofeld's plan as well kind of goes wrong, because obviously it was initially supposed to target Bond.
And only Bond.
It gets turned back on Spectre. So they managed to kind of wipe all of Spectre out. Talk about tying up loose ends in this film. Yeah, but they do that. But I think the banter, and if you like, the chemistry between Bond and Paloma in this is awesome. I mean, a little behind the scenes thing is obviously Daniel Craig and Ana de Armas. They worked together on Rian Johnson's Knives Out, and they got on very well on that. And Daniel, again, his creative involvement in the Bond franchise, suggested her. She was the quintessential, what you'd call the typical Bond girl in this, because she had the beauty and they dressed her that way. But it fitted the scene. I did like the fact that James wanted to go for a drink first with her.
I think,
she was charming. She was charming, and
the role of Bond women is changing quite substantially, and for the better, I think. And I think also it's the fact that he doesn't run around bedding women left, right, and center in this speaks to the nature of what the film hopes to be, which is kind of, or what you might hope the film to be as an audience member, which is reuniting him with Madeline. And also,
he hasn't done bad in this franchise, though, as far as
no, not at all.
But yes.
Well, actually, he actually doesn't like. I mean, when you think about it, he has obviously the brief relationship with Vesper. He sort of beds strawberry fields in Quantum.
Yeah.
Now I really start to struggle here.
Yeah, he goes off with
Skyfall.
Skyfall, he's rescued, isn't he? He has after he's shot and falls off the bridge, he's actually the woman who rescues him. He's in a relationship with at the beginning of the film. I mean, she doesn't have any lines or anything, but I
don't know if she rescues him, does she? I mean, you don't actually
she grabs
see
his hand and pulls him out. Remember in the title sequence.
I always took that as a kind of ephemeral dream type of thing. That wasn't really.
Right, but you see her with.
I see what you mean. Yeah,
you see them together, and he's drinking a beer in bed with her, and all this sort of stuff at the beginning. But yeah.
Okay, so but. Olga Kurylenko's character Camille in Quantum.
There's
no relationship there.
No, they're allies. Yeah,
and the film is better for that, I think.
Moneypenny is ambiguous.
Yes, I think that's ambiguous. So
when she shades him,
obviously, Severin, he has the relationship with in Skyfall, the brief kind of sexual encounter. Sorry, and we're not just doing a list of the number of women he's been to bed with. I'm trying to.
you're saying about how the role of the Bond women has changed.
And also,
Skyfall is one of those films that's generally lauded by everyone, right?
Yeah.
But I have to say, if you want to talk about the treatment and use of women in that film, right? You know, he has probably one of the lines. I'm surprised more people don't cringe about it. When she gets shot, you know, basically, she leads him to the island. Obviously, they have their shower scene. She leads him to the island, and then Silver has her tied up, and they have to shoot the whiskey off the top of her head. And what is his line? Waste a good scotch. Bang.
Well, yeah, but I think that's meant to be a feint. Like, I don't think that's literally how he feels. I think the difference with him and other Bonds is that he generally seems to feel or that maybe it's the other way, that the Vespers turn him into such a cold-hearted character. So then you're left with Spectre, where I think Madeline isn't Madeline the only character that he kind of has a relationship with?
It is, which seems to happen very quickly in terms of screen time.
Yeah.
But yes.
But I think they're both kind of wounded animals. They're both kind of living with the damage that their parents might have done to them and things like that. So I don't think he's that much of a Lothario in these films. So I think Bond is changing. I think the role of Bond women is changing. It's all for the better. I think Paloma's a good example of that.
Well, she holds her own. She holds her own big time in that scene, and likewise, Numi comes in as well, and actually, grabs the asset for a bit. I do like that kind of cat and mouse thing. Where they're both trying to get him off the get him out of Cuba.
Like, that's a fantastic sequence. Just absolutely amazing. We go back to London briefly in the film. I don't want to dwell too much on that, but there's some great stuff with M and Q and Moneypenny in that sequence. I think it speaks to the kind of relationships and how they've developed throughout the movies. I really enjoyed that stuff. We move on to Norway, where we've discovered that obviously Madeline is now the therapist for Ernst Stavro Blofeld. Much to Bond's chagrin, there's a meeting between Madeline and Safin, who gives her the virus, which will only kill Blofeld. And of course, what shocks me is she agrees to do it.
Well, I mean, he's holding the fact. Well, he's holding the fact that she owes him her life.
Absolutely, and I love that sequence where Bond and Madeline go in to see Blofeld. Madeline refuses, actually kind of backs out at the last minute, but of course, because Bond has touched her, when he makes his move against Blofeld, he then kills Blofeld without realizing it,
inadvertently. Exactly.
Kind of. And he's then told, this thing is now in your system and it's always going to be there, and you're very lucky that it's only meant to target this one
good
person.
job. I did like the line, it's a good job you weren't really related. Which I think might have been a little dig at Spectre, actually, but yes.
And of course it speaks to the fact that kind of Safin has only made 1 or 2 appearances in the film at this point, which is a bit of a waste, really.
Well, let's be honest, all of the Fleming characters in this are getting Felix Leiter, Ernst Stavro Blofeld. They're both, the box is closed on both of them for this saga, right? They're gone.
And of course, then we move to Norway. Sorry to jump ahead here. I'm just trying to keep us on track. We move out to Norway, where Madeline is kind of in hiding at her old family home, the home that we see at the beginning of the film. We're treated as lovely kind of mirrored shots. And also with some of the action sequences, I don't know if you noticed this, but they mirror some of the action sequences from the earlier films. In Cuba, you get a slight mirroring of the scaffolding drops in Quantum. There's at least one from Casino Royale. But there are some nice little touches, and it's almost like, you know, you feel,
as well as some from other Bond movies, and
sure,
a key one being what actually happens following this car chase in Norway. So you get the or the Land Rovers and stuff, you know, chasing Bond down, and obviously the one with our character, our CIA double agent, whose name I've forgotten.
Don't worry about
his
it.
name?
I can't remember.
Logan Ash. We've got Logan Ash, and you know, there's the bit where he said, like, yeah, give me a hand, brother. You know, obviously it gives him to say, my brother was Felix Leiter, you know, kind of thing. But he did the kick, which is very similar to In For Your Eyes Only, where Roger Moore kicks the car off the cliff. It's kind of again, it's not the same, but it's a nod.
Before we get on to the other important thing about this sequence, the action in that sequence is wonderful. They're in this beautiful kind of almost spectral forest that is kind of cloaked in mist. And I thought it was an incredible sequence, if only for the atmospherics and the location that they used. Absolutely amazing. The other important thing about this sequence is we meet Mathilde, who is Bond's daughter, which again, never been done in a Bond film before. We never really see Bond having any family. But he has a daughter, but he's told by Madeline that, you know, sorry, she's not your kid. Which is a lie.
Well, he goes for the eyes.
Yeah.
Because they did a very good casting there, you know, for Daniel's Baby Blues. Yeah.
I really like that relationship between Bond and Mathilde. I thought it was really nicely played. It becomes very significant at the end of the film. But they're captured. And it's then up to Bond and Numi to infiltrate the secret layer.
Again, they managed to make it sort of make sense in the real world, but it is the closest we've come in any Daniel Craig film to the evil villain's secret lair.
You know what? I think this film, more than any other, has managed to successfully fuse old Bond and new Bond. Despite the kind of
whilst subverting everything at the same time.
So we're in this secret layer that they plan to blow up. It's the site of a poison garden, and in fact, it's a manufacturing plant for this virus. One of the key things here is that it's a sort of protected. It was a protected nuclear base, and is therefore shielded from any kind of major explosions, which is going to become major at the end of the movie. So basically, if you fire a missile at it, the missile isn't going to get inside the base because there are these huge blast doors. Now,
I think it's funny. I think it's funny that Daniel Craig has played a stormtrooper and had to open the blast door. Sorry, I couldn't help it.
Brilliant. That is perfect. Now, the thing about this sequence that I really love is obviously there's the horrible, sinister moment where Safin captures Mathilde, and in fact has captured Madeline, but captures Mathilde, and Bond literally has to kind of beg for his life. And I really love that scene where he's kind of down on his knees and he has to kind of beg for forgiveness. I absolutely adored it. I think that was so well played. of course, there is this kind of ticking clock thing now where Bond has to open these blast doors to allow this sort of offshore battleship that will launch missiles to destroy the base and therefore destroy this virus. The virus has been reconfigured to target like a major part of the population of the world. I can't remember what.
Well, as I said, this felt to me like I mentioned earlier, a bit like the snap. You know, the Thanos snap is it's targeted to wipe out. They discover, you know, they think it was the Spectre agents, and then they look beyond that on the encrypted, you know, database from the bionic eye that Blofeld had, and you know, it turns out that it's you know, like half the population of the planet, and they don't go specifically into, you know, any particular nation or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty frightening. We have really high stakes in this, don't we?
Yeah. And like genuinely you do feel it, you really do feel it. And I think I mean that moment that kind of lets you know where the politics of the bad guys sit, where the Russian scientist is very much to Numi, who is a person of color. I think he says something like, "I can't wait to stamp out your entire race," or something like that.
Yeah,
and it's just like quite rightly gets
no.
kneecapped for.
She gets a really cool bit there to get him. I don't know. I've only seen. I haven't seen it recent enough to remember the exact line, but it's not blatant, but it's still there, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what he says, but and she's able to get a really cool part in there where she kicks him off the straight into his chemicals.
There's some great stuff in this sequence. It is a sinister kind of place, and of course they're manufacturing all this poison, and they've got that beautiful but deadly garden where he kind of walks Mathilde through. So there's some genuinely creepy, horrible stuff.
Yeah. Also, it's important to mention. Sorry, I know we're trying to get through it quick. I appreciate.
No. Go for it.
But it's also important to mention you have that Numi and Bond's respect for one another, and their relationship is really built to this point, up to the point where Numi actually wants him for this mission to be 007 again, to get which I think is key when you think of the whole Bond. You know, if you look at this series of films, we got James Bond, but as 007, right from his first mission in Casino Royale to what will, be his last mission in this film. So I think that's quite key that he gets reassigned as 007. Yeah,
it is nice. It is a nice moment. Now, obviously, Bond catches up with Safin. Mathilde and Madeline are rescued. Bond catches up with Safin, beats the crap out of him, but of course, Safin gets.
By the way, I said that on 007 time-wise. Just to make you happy there. We're clearly not going to finish in that time, but at least we mentioned that he got his 007 back at 1007.
So he then gets Safin gets the upper hand on Bond. I mean, what's interesting about this is it utterly dooms Bond. And I was really surprised they went this far. We're told repeatedly that once you get this virus in you, that is it. And it doesn't matter. Like you may never get sick. You may never die from it. In fact, you probably won't. However, because it targets specific genetic codes, if you're in contact with that person, you will kill them. And Safin has programmed a particular strand of the virus to target Madeline and therefore Mathilde. And unfortunately, he injects Bond. He manages to get that into Bond's bloodstream during the fight.
Yeah.
And utterly dooms him as a character. And it was then that I realized, of course, it isn't going to be Madeline that dies.
No. It's the other thing is with this again. Sorry, I think we need to linger a bit more on it.
Yeah, go for it.
Is it's the bitter irony of it. So we have James Bond who, is established in this series, as in the books, that he was an orphan. Yeah. His adoptive family, died when he was young in an avalanche, accident and all of this sort of thing. So, suddenly the guy who was this perfect secret agent, because he had no family and really made no connections or attachments, the second time he does, really, because I suppose we can count Vesper, who betrayed him, but the second time that he gets that and discovers that he has offspring, what a horrible, turn of irony that once he finds that out, it is when he's got family that he cares about and
absolutely
living. Yeah,
and it's utterly crushing, and you really feel the emotional weight of that sequence. And of course, Bond then does go back up and reopen these blast doors. But he also knows that he's got to wait effectively for the missiles to come along and blow him up. And it is a genuinely moving sequence. And you've got to remember, they've done something that has never been done before in a Bond film, which is they've killed Bond. They've literally killed Bond. Whereas, we've seen a lot of fake deaths. Yeah,
exactly.
No, I would have been really angry if this had been like film number 4 and there'd have been a little thing at the end where he pops back up. You know what I mean? Like, I'd have been genuinely annoyed.
Yeah, it's funny. I find people are divided on this one because I've got some friends that are really big Bond fans, and they don't fall into the category that hate this film, because there are a lot of people that outright hate this and think it's a total betrayal of Fleming's work, right? But I've got some that are a fan of the film, but they wish that they'd made that ending a little bit more ambiguous than it actually is. It's very final.
I like it because it gives you a sequence of feels. I actually think going forward, they should make all the Bond actors maybe just sign a contract and go, okay, 3 or 4 movies, and you're going to have a closed loop of a storyline, maybe. But you're guaranteed for like 3 or 4 movies, and that's it. And then, just replace him, or maybe start replacing him every couple of movies. And, because that's what people really love, is the speculation. Who's going to be the next Bond? Which we'll get to in just a second. We have got to wrap it up. Sorry, guys, we went way over on this one. I'm sorry, Keith. I feel like I've rushed you through this.
Well, I mean, as I said, it is a sort of subject that we could probably have a whole series of these on this subject. But yeah,
looking at the film itself, I mean, I think it's a wonderful ending to the whole thing. I think it improves on a lot of the stuff in Spectre. I think it's up there with Casino Royale and Skyfall for me. I know you don't necessarily feel this way about Skyfall, but up there with Casino and Skyfall for me as the best of the Daniel Craig Bonds. I don't think he's made a bad Bond film in any of them. I think he's made some that are less exciting and as fun as what went before. I think he's a terrific actor.
I think he's had a great run. I mean, an enviable run as Bond.
Absolutely. And he has done things that have never been done before with the character.
Totally. Yeah.
Or not been kind of seen through to the end the way they necessarily could have been. I really enjoyed the movie. I think I do want to go back just briefly to the score, because we have Hans Zimmer doing his very first Bond film.
Mm-hmm.
Which you think they would have had the kind of man who is responsible for so much of the blueprint of modern action film score a Bond film sooner. But no, this is his first. I want to say there's a piece of music in the film called Final Ascent, which occurs near the very end of the film. And I think it's one of the best pieces of music that Hans Zimmer has ever written in his life.
Okay.
I will go on record as saying that now. I think it's incredible. And please take it from me, I spend a staggering amount of time listening to film soundtracks. I think it's one of the best things he's ever done. It's a beautiful piece of music. I think the emotion in the score is brilliant. I think he does exactly the right thing, which is he works the score around the Bond theme, not the other way around. I think that's a mistake that some Bond scorers might have made in some of the scores. I think what you have here is an emotionally resonant, beautifully made movie that will stand the test of time, and a perfect end point to this iteration of Bond.
Yeah.
How about you?
No, I agree. I mean, you know, I think about this probably way more than I bloody should, to be fair. But,
we all do. It's
you know, I've analysed this. I've thought about it, and you're right. He has been lucky enough to be, you know, the sixth actor in this wonderful legacy to play this character. But what he has done that nobody else has had the opportunity to do is you know, take this character on a journey. And I think it's a fitting ending. I can see, you know, as I said, I've listened to a lot of discussion around this, and I can certainly see, you know, many people think, well, it's not a Bond movie because of this, and I can totally understand that argument. I totally respect people who have that opinion, but I for one really enjoyed the way they ended this, and I like the fact that they subverted the expectation, because at the end of Spectre, I assumed that Madeline was going to follow a similar fate and storyline to Tracy, because you're right, there are a lot of nods to, you know, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which, you know, considering Lazenby only did the one Bond film, it's probably one of the most important and talked about Bond films in the whole canon, you know.
Yeah, but, and then actually brilliantly directed.
Peter Hunt, yeah, amazing job. But yeah, so yeah, I have lots of feelings, but yeah, to keep it short, so we're not here for another 3 hours. Yeah, it's a fitting ending. You know, it was hard. I actually didn't think they were going to go there. I know there'd been rumors, and I'd heard, and there's always rumors about what's going to happen and what stuff's going to happen, and you know, we do live in a culture, a movie culture nowadays, where it is, you know, become a thing now, a popular thing to kill off main and important characters in a saga. And yeah, I think the way that this one was handled was done incredibly well. And I have all sorts of emotions and thoughts on this, but yeah, I like the fact, in terms of where this film ranks, if you like, I don't think, you know, Casino Royale, where it started here for me, was kind of a near perfect movie. I have a really hard job. I can nitpick, but overall, it's really hard to criticize that movie. All of the other films have been problematic, I think, in areas, although they've still been hugely enjoyable, but they've all had problems. And this one, it's not a perfect film, but it's a fitting end to the saga and to the character. I'll put it that way.
I absolutely agree with you. I 100% agree. 100% agree. One thing I do just have to mention, in the last, we've got 1 minute, so I've just got to mention this. If you go through the credits of the movie, you will see the words, which I waited for all the way to the end: James Bond will return.
Yes.
So obviously there's going to be another Bond at some point. We don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to do a series of 007 films with Numi? I wouldn't mind seeing that as her as 007 for maybe a couple of movies, or to kind of do a sort of her own series of films that are threaded through the other Bond films. You know what I mean? Like because
I
they have said they'll never do a Bond TV show. However, I actually
double agents,
yeah, and I think there's something to be said for doing a standalone sequence of 007 movies. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think what is interesting about that line, and I know it's the line that they've been putting up at the end of Bond films since they ran out of Bond titles, but James Bond will return. But it would have been if they'd put 007 will return.
Yeah. I get where you're going.
I would have agreed with the fact that okay, then maybe they are going to carry this on with the surrounding characters of MQ and Moneypenny and Tanner, with perhaps Lashana Lynch playing Noomi as 007, and that's. But the fact that it specifically says James Bond will return leads me to think that they're either going to do a complete reboot, or if they're going to use some of those characters, those aforementioned characters, they are going to adopt this, what's been a fan theory that held no water for years, but they're going to adopt this. Maybe as Bond is now dead, the name James Bond will be an alias that goes with 007.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I suspect that they might do a complete reboot. And just with my filmmaker hat on, I know you want to wrap this up.
No, go on. I want to hear this.
Obviously, I'm only a few years behind Daniel Craig, so I love that generation. So I've missed my opportunity to play Bond. But if I was going to direct a Bond film, if I could be so bold, I would say that an interesting way to go with this now is they have the rights now to all of the Fleming novels. They've got over all these years of legal issues and all this sort of thing. And I think to do something different, rather than contemporizing Bond, which is what they keep doing, is why not redo those novels, tell the story, obviously add more spectacle to them and set pieces to please, contemporary audiences, but set it in the mid-50s, okay, and have Bond, driving a Bentley, armed with a Beretta, and set it in that era and tell those stories, but with modern technology and, modern ways of doing things. And set it back then and try something different that way. That would be an idea that I would certainly pitch if I was looking to do something just to be different, because they're going to reboot it with another actor, obviously a younger actor, but where they've achieved something phenomenal with this, as you rightly said. They have this amazing legacy, but they did something bold with Casino Royale by subverting the expectation and rebooting and starting from scratch with it. And they've done something different in the fact that they've interconnected the films and made them less about the individual missions and about the character. But are they just going to repeat that again? What can they do new? And that's just my 10 cents worth.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I think there's a lot in that. That's something I think I would definitely pay to see. Who knows, guys? It's been fantastic to be able to do this. I'm sorry that we sped through some of it, and we perhaps should have done this as an extended special. Sorry. But I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you consider checking out the Patreon. I hope you consider subscribing to the channel. Please do like and share wherever you can. Keith, thank you for your insight and your passion here today on this series of films. There's a lot of it. Yeah, absolutely. Same with me. But I don't think I can even come close to your kind of your love for this series, and I really appreciate you coming on and casting the sort of expert eye on this. Thank you so much for doing that. If you want to check out Keith's series of Bond specials on Home Media Minefield. He has done a really great series on the Daniel Craig Bonds. We're going to link those all in the description, so you'll be able to catch them there. Please do consider subscribing to the channel Home Media Minefield. You can follow Keith on Twitter at Home Media Mine. You can follow him on Instagram at Home Media Minefield. You can find him on Facebook, Home Media Minefield. You can find me at Comic Crush Paul, at the Comic Crush on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also catch up with us on Facebook, on the website, thecomiccrush.com. We're hopefully going to be doing more Bond coverage because I'd like to kind of reach out into other areas of the movie. There's lots more to come on the Comic Crush in the coming weeks. Do check it out. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, I bet Keith is going to have an unboxing and examination of the Home Media edition of No Time to Die when that comes out. Do keep it an eye
when it comes out, for sure.
Yeah, which I think is going to be like it's actually going to be quite soon. I know it's already been announced and pre-orders are up and things. We'll try and put a link to those in the descriptions as well. Keith, thanks so much.
No, thank you for having me.
Lovely to see you again. Thank you for taking this time today. Guys, thank you for sticking with us. Thanks for your patience. We know it's been a long one. Goodbye to everyone watching. Goodbye to everyone on the podcast. We'll catch you again soon. Oh, and do catch the latest episode of Crushing Comics, which is available on this very channel right now. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll catch you again soon.